Okay.
Well, yeah, if he's going to imply his own time constraint, then he has this issue
Okay.
that he would have to address as well, because that's
Okay.
just going to further complicate his position.
I will gladly address that if you stop interrupting and bringing up 20 more topics. Okay.
It's the same topic. It's been the same topic.
Okay, the Bible says they will bring forth after their kind. I will make the statement that probably Noah had 2 squirrels on the ark. They have diversified into 200 species of squirrels. Black ones, white ones, brown ones. That is not evident, and that could happen in 4,400 years. We have 339 breeds of dogs that have been developed in the last 300 years. Yes, it can happen very quickly. There are biological factors, like the Kaibab and the Abert squirrel, just by geographic isolation across the Grand Canyon, have developed and look pretty different. Whether they're still reproductively capable, I don't know. Put them together and find out. There are 800 breeds of cattle recognized worldwide, and they fall into 2 main types, according to Wikipedia, just a couple days ago, yesterday, okay? So 800 breeds of cattle, I think we would agree, are probably the same kind of animal. Noah might have had 10 cows on the ark, or 20, and we now have 800 breeds. I don't know what he had on the ark. I'm not asking for mine to be taught at taxpayer expense. But if you think a cow and a pine tree are related, and an elephant and a bacteria, I think that's a stretch of anybody's imagination. I have some pictures here of, for instance, the different cats in the cat family. Here's a jag lion, the cross between a jaguar and a lion. So possibly the jaguar and a lion are the same biblical kind. There's a bobcat lynx cross. There are 30 recognized breeds of chickens in the world, and it says the jungle fowl is the original bird from which all varieties and strains of domesticated chickens are derived. Man has developed domesticated chickens. Some lay more eggs, some have more meat, some live longer, some produce more offspring. They can select for a certain characteristic that they want, but they're still a chicken. And a 5-year-old knows that. They could recognize right away the difference between a chicken and a pine tree. Why you can't, I don't know. But
what do you mean I
different.
can't? I just read to you the law of monophyly, which shows that you can't, there's always going to be a chicken. It's never going to not be a chicken. All its descendants, no matter how much they change, they're going to still be chickens. Why? Because of the law of monophyly. And those chickens are still going to be neonath birds. They're still going to be birds. Not the bird kind, because the Bible doesn't describe what a kind is. As a matter of fact, it says there's all sorts of birds, and it doesn't describe what a sort is either. But we have the idea that we have all kinds of birds. So we have kinds within kinds, which sounds like it's describing the same thing as clades, but the difference being, and this is the important thing that you keep missing, is that there has to be a point where they're not all related. So it says all kinds of birds, implying that there's different kinds of birds. So there were individual creations, yet they're all birds. So why are they not the bird kind? So can you give me me a distinction between kinds?
You mentioned the law of monophyly. What is the ancestor between the pine tree and the elephant? What did that ancestor look like, and why didn't it always bring forth after its kind? Why did it diversify? It did. You mean an elephant and a pine tree are still the same kind?
That's right. They're still eukaryotes.
Okay. Well, I can help you recognize. If you get confused any time, I can show you which is a tree and which is an elephant. I think probably.
I can do that too. I can do that too. See, you've described evolutionary principles for the last 5 minutes. I've no contest with that. I'm waiting for the creationist principles to come in.
I think I've told you several times. The Bible says if they can bring forth, they are the same kind.
Unless they've now speciated. Would you accept that? I've seen in some of your other videos, you accept that speciation happens so they can no longer bring forth.
Speciation happens, but it's within very strict limits. There are 200
what are the
species.
limits?
Well, there are 200 species of squirrels. Someday there may be 500 species of squirrels.
Then what are the limits?
Squirrel. I think the limit is called squirrel. They're always going to be what's called a
because
squirrel.
Because of the law of monophyly, they're always going to be eukaryotes too. They're always going to be mammals. They're always going to be eutherians. None of those things are going to change.
So
you still belong to every clade your evolutionary ancestors did. There was no point where you stopped being what they were. You can't grow out of your ancestry.
So I am still a pine tree.
Did I say or imply in any way that you were descended from a pine tree?
You said I'm still a eukaryote, and so are the pine trees.
Are you telling me that you are not a eukaryote?
Are you a pine tree?
Did I tell you that all eukaryotes are pine trees?
Yeah, so are you a pine tree?
I told you. Can somebody back up the tape? When did I tell Kent Hovind that all eukaryotes are pine trees?
No, I didn't. You said no.
What
You
he
did
said,
say.
what,
You said
Kent, what he said for clarification, what he said was that
okay.
all pine trees are eukaryotic. They're all eukaryotes, but not all eukaryotes are pine trees. Correct?
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
But your
Okay, so
ancestors.
at no point in your evolutionary history did a eukaryote give birth to a non-eukaryote. So, and the same thing applies throughout. So all the hundreds of times that in the last 20 years you kept saying a dog never produces a non-dog. I'm sorry, that's always been wrong. That's always been a straw man. That has
No.
never been a correct criticism of evolution. That has been a description of an evolutionary law which you have failed to understand lo these decades.
No, I think I completely understand it. Dogs always
Just
produce
demonstrated
dogs.
other and
hold
will
on,
Aaron,
now do so again.
let him get it out. Let him get it out.
I will say it again. You haven't understood it in 20 years, but dogs do always produce dogs. Do you know of an exception to that?
Because of the evolutionary law of monophily, that is true. And dogs remain conoidean carnivores. They never became a non-carnivore when they produced the first dogs. Still a carnivore. Still a member of every one of its parental clades. Same thing with cats. Phalloidean carnivores are still carnivores. Dogs, cats, both carnivores.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Are pine trees carnivores?
Because carnivora is limited to a subset of mammals and trees are not even animals, no.
But you think elephants and pine trees and dogs are
Are
related?
still eukaryotes, yes.
So, but at some point they became carnivores. Something happened.
Yes, that's correct. And I've got a series of videos explaining